In this video, I'm going to work through an example of a board game company and discuss the concept of a break-even point and try to develop an understanding of how much money do you need to raise or get an investment of in order to go into production of a certain product. In our example, it will be a board game. So, for example, you are an inventor of a board game. That is, you've created a game where you have pieces and a board and some cards and some dice, and there's some rules to the game, some objectives to the game. And you play the game, somebody wins, somebody loses, and so forth. Now you go and you try to print this board that you've created, try to get all the pieces together, and you try to make it a professionally looking board game in a box that you can package and sell. So if you go and try to create one such unit, your cost might come out to $60, $70 for being able to print that big board, and maybe another $10 for the various dice and pieces that you're going to put in there and the cards, and then maybe another $5 for the box that you're going to get, and then something more for the printing of the box. Your individual units cost of things, items, might come out to, let's say, $110. Now, obviously, you cannot go into the market, into Walmart, into Target, and try to sell a board for over $110, because all the boards that you're going to have to compete with in order to be in that market, in that space, and be able to sell those board games, you need to be able to bring down that price point to under $10 in terms of your cost, so that you can then sell that board in market for $10, maybe $15 or $20. And if it's really good, and if it's something that everybody wants and people are willing to pay 30 or 40 bucks, then that. Board games like Risk or Monopoly typically sell for anywhere $15 to $30, depending on where you buy it. But remember, even the distributor is going to take a cut. So if your cost is not optimized and brought down, your margins are just not going to be there. You're not going to make any money. In fact, if you're producing one board, you're going to be losing money. So how do you go about bringing down that cost? Well, the answer is you have to scale. So if you were to scale and you were to go to a board game manufacturer and say, hey, I want to be able to produce every board for $6 a board. So that manufacturer is going to say, okay, you have to produce 10,000 boards in order to produce them at $6 a board. So if you're willing to sign a order for $60,000, then you can produce the boards. Then you have to maybe go spend another $5,000 or $10,000 on the dice and the cards and the pieces. So, and then maybe another $5,000 or $10,000 on the boxes for 10,000 boxes. Maybe $1 a box, 10,000 boxes, that's $10,000. So now your cost has come to 60,000 plus another 10,000 plus another 10,000, and maybe $2 or $4 for the distributor that's going to distribute it. So your cost has come to $100,000 to $110,000 for being able to produce and sell 10,000 boards. So now that you're looking at $100,000 for 10,000 boards, including the distribution, you are now looking at having a price per board of cost per board of $10. And then if you're selling it for $15, your profit margin would be $5. If you're selling it for $20, it would be $10. And you might have other costs in that, such as advertising costs or being promotional costs, in order to be able to sell those 10,000 boards as well. So if your cost comes out to $100,000 for 10,000 boards and you decide to sell them at $10 a piece, then your break-even point is that. It's the point at which your cost equals your revenue. Therefore, you have no profit. So that point, how many boards do you have to produce in order to be at that point? That's your break-even point. So if you have to produce 10,000 boards at $10 total, then that's your break-even point. If you're going to be if your price point is $10. If your price point is $20, then your break-even point may be a lower amount of boards. It might be 6,000 boards or 8,000 boards. So now when you are going to go to get an investor involved, because you might not have the $100,000 in your own pocket to go and produce this board and sell it, you need to be able to clearly tell the investor, these are my costs, this is the game that I have created, that I have maybe patented and spent $10,000 or $110 or whatever your cost is, depending on if you have a full patent or a provisional patent, and you need to be able to maybe trademark or copyright or whatever you need to do. And then you have a product, which is a board game. And you're now able to represent to an investor, hey, if you give me $100,000, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to be able to break even. If you give me $500,000, I'm going to be able to sell them for a profit of, let's say, if you make $500,000 worth of boards, your cost comes down to $3 a piece. Your profit margin goes up to $7 or $8. And then you can say to the guy, hey, look, I'm going to be able to make $800,000 if you invest $500,000. And so you'll make $100,000 profit on this thing. Probably not something that most investors would go for, because unless they really like the game and they believe that the game will continue to sell and scale. Most investors might recommend to you that you take your board game and go to an existing game company such as Parker Brothers or Hasbro or someone who can then license it from you and produce it, because that they're already in that business. They already have it streamlined and optimized. They know what will sell, where they can sell it. They have the distribution and everything figured out. But in this video, you have learned the basics of break-even point and a very rough overview of coming up with financials of selling a product profitably. Thank you.